Okay, so as part of the content that we're doing here at Money to the Masses, we've been wanting to do more content that's aimed towards our female listeners and viewers. So as part of that, I've got Jane to come on to our show this week. So Jane, I've known Jane for a while through things we've been doing at Money to the Masses, and your stories are very fascinating, but also what you do is incredibly useful in the insights you can bring to our female audience. So I'm going to let you introduce yourself and explain what you do. So
thank you. Well, thank you for inviting me along. Lovely to be here and good to meet you at last. So my name's Jane Knight from Successful Mums Career Academy. And basically, we are a training organisation that supports mums back to work or to start a business. And as you say, Damien, off the back of my story, it was when I became a mum and realised it was such a difficult job to be a parent. And I could really see a demand to support women back to work, because I think you have a baby and you can really lose your mojo. So, so we help mums back to work. We provide online training and face-to-face training to help these women on their journey to find flexible work around their family.
So how long have you been doing this now? Successful Mums has been around for how many years?
It's probably, I think it's 8 or 9 years now. And prior to that, I'm a teacher and a career advisor and a coach. Okay. So with that skill set and becoming a mum for the first time, it just, was a really good set of ingredients to put in the mixing bowl. And the cake is Successful Mums.
So Successful Mums is to explain to people how it would work. So if you had a mum out there, how would they engage with you and the sort of people that do engage with Successful Mums?
It's a real mix. So we work with lots of referral organisations. So we might work with housing associations, for example. We work with job centres, but we also work with people across social media, through Insta, through Facebook, through LinkedIn, and through Twitter, that have found us that way through being on mat leave or going back to a job that they did before becoming a parent, and then it's just too full on for them. Or people find us through word of mouth, which is our most popular source of people finding us, which is just brilliant, 65%. And when they do come to us via our website or our socials, we're then able to have a chat with them about their career, what are they doing now and where do they want to be, and then how we can help them achieve that goal.
So at the crux of what you do is helping mums to go back to work, to continue their careers. And it'd be interesting to explore the sort of problems or the feelings that these mums have when they're talking to you, when they first come to you, because I think people listening to this they'll find a lot of common threads with their own experience after becoming a parent.
Well, absolutely. And I think the best way to describe it, and we've heard our mums say this as well. I mean, we've supported almost it's almost 8,000 mums now, and my original goal, Damien, was to help 100 mums, so we're really pleased. My team have helped me done this. I haven't done this all on my own, but time and time again the women will say they've lost their mojo. So I think you have a baby, it's wonderful becoming a parent, however you're not the priority anymore. And so you've got a different perspective on the world. And when it is time to go back to work, depending on the individual, I mean, some people don't go back to work till their children are a lot older. Financially, some people need to go back sooner, and some people choose to go back sooner. Everybody is different. But I think losing your mojo, losing your confidence, and losing your way is really, really common. In fact, the common theme is the 3 C's, and it's about confidence, career advice and childcare. So we're able to take these women on a journey through our online training program with those 3 C's. So the confidence, the key thing is we talk to these women about the transferable skills you have when you become a parent. So for example, I've got 2 children now, so my conflict management skills are so much better than they used to be. Negotiation, I thought I'd be in charge, but I seem to relentlessly be negotiating with my children about certain things. Event management, I've organised so many birthday parties where people like the venue, the children are happy, there's no peanuts, the parents are happy. This is all the jobs that we're doing on a day-to-day basis as a mother or a father or a carer. are tasks that you would do in the workplace. And so that's the first thing we do. We talk to the mums about the transferable skills they have, rather than time and time again we hear these women say, I'm just a mum, but we're working so hard, it's just we're not paid for it.
Yeah, and well, we talked about this on our podcast before about, we did one on female economics, and it's about how the things that mums do aren't valued economically. So in GDP numbers, it doesn't take account of the things that mums are doing in terms of childcare and all the other things they do. And so that kind of bleeds through then, doesn't it, into society. But then, as you say, probably the confidence as well when mums want to go back to the workforce. Do you find one of the things is imposter syndrome with mums when they do want to go back, where they feel they won't be able to do the job they were actually doing prior to having children?
Yeah, that's huge. And in fact, what the women don't seem to recognise is that they have all their previous work experience. That doesn't go anywhere, it's still there. And then they have all these additional skills where they've become a mum. So it's about mindset. That's a real key thing. And it's often the language they use. So rather than saying I'm just a mum, it's you're a mum, and it's a superpower, because the skills that you're learning, the perspective you have is just so broader than what you had before. So I think a really positive is employers are starting to recognise that. So just going back to the 3 C's, we've got the confidence piece, which is about these women recognising, they are capable of a lot more, and they are day in, day out. The skills that they are using is what can be used in the workplace. But then the career advice, it's an education piece really, because there are so many jobs out there that people don't know about. And just one example, there's a lady, Sarah, she was actually a barrister, so a real sort of senior role, very educated, but she just said, what can I offer an employer? Because she didn't want to go back to doing her job. It was a very full-on job. So we supported her to become an assessor, and where she could support other people, other apprentices in law, for example. So there's quite a few jobs out there that people don't know exist. There's lots of new jobs as well that the parents, the mums, can actually go for.
So you've said about obviously the women you've helped go back into the workplace as well, and you've helped improve all their confidence. Can you just talk us through, say, I know you have a course that you'll go through, just to give people an idea of how you actually help them, because they do also get the qualification at the end as well, don't they?
Definitely. So we run a back to work and confidence course, and it is actually an accredited qualification. So it's governed by Ofqual. They will receive a qualification at the end of it, and that training that they do is online. So we have our very own learning platform, but there's also weekly webinars that they would have with their coach or the trainer at Successful Mums. We are all qualified teachers, and we do have Ofsted that checks the work we do. So we're a bit like a school, but instead for young people, we're supporting mums and dads. We do have some dads as well. So at the end of the course, they would then gain a qualification that obviously they can add to their CV. And in the back to work and confidence course, for example, we cover items like CVs. We can help them update their CV, LinkedIn profile. We also cover personal branding and how you present yourself, because that's included in the sort of interview element of the role. We cover quite a lot of IT and digital skills, which is really important, particularly off the back of the pandemic. So many more employers, we're all working digitally, aren't we? So that was a real gap for the women that aren't working. So there's a real number of topics here that some of the mums might, have a gap, and we can fill that gap, support them, train them, so they're ready to go back to work.
And that includes skills like you were saying about how to join meetings online and all those things. Like you said, because of the pandemic, the workplace has changed a fair bit, hasn't it, since prior to that? So maybe some of the mums, when they were last in an office environment, say, for example, then you help them with that part as well, don't you? Yeah,
definitely. So we cover Teams, Zoom, Google Online. So we've looked at a typical day in an office, and all offices are different, but the key tasks that employers are looking for, and that is really mapped to the qualification we deliver. So this then enables us to provide the training on our online learning platform, and which the mums can actually do at any point, so it's really flexible around their children. And then we have the weekly webinars where they get to meet other mums, which is a really key part of what we do, networking with other mums, and they can learn these new skills just so they're then prepared for interview and they can go for jobs and say, yes, I've had recent training, so I understand how to do X, Y, and Z.
Do you find, you mentioned interviews there, so is that, I mean, everybody who's ever been to an interview, there's obviously the nerves that surround that, but if you have had a period where you had a break in your career, then that sort of confidence, imposter syndrome, that must be quite a hurdle for people to overcome, to feel that they can go into an interview and perform.
It can be, but we flip that and we encourage our mums to talk about what they've been doing since they haven't been working. Because, Damon, believe me, none of them are lying on the sofa drinking tea, watching telly. It's just an ongoing task, being a mum, a dad, a carer. So we encourage our mums and we give them templates, and we support them with their pitch to talk about what they have been doing. So the transferable skills I touched on earlier, it's about them talking about organisational skills, research skills, time management, empathy, creative thinking, and off the back of that is the organisation skills, for example, just getting your kids to school in the morning and sorting out all of the letters and all the emails that come through from the school. Event planning we've touched on with birthdays, budgeting, I mean that's something that doesn't go away, so budgeting for a family. And in fact, there's a lady that we're working with recently. She wants to set up her own business because we can help people become self-employed, and she wanted to be a VA, so a virtual assistant. And she's got 3 children, and she was saying to me, I haven't really got any experience though of being a personal assistant or a virtual assistant. And then when we talked to her about the fact she's got 3 children under the age of 10, she is their PA. I mean, she is, the amount of work involved, and she has a partner. So just managing the whole household, in effect, you are a personal assistant, aren't you? So you've got all those skills there. So we encourage the mums to talk about their skills, and not all of them, because we need to be realistic. Not everybody is going to be great at all of those things. So we encourage them to just pick between 3 and 5 and really hone those skills and talk to an employer about what they've been doing with their family and with their children at that time. And one other thing just to add, there's a lady, and she was one of my private clients actually. I have some private clients, and she said to me, we was going through her CV, and she just mentioned really casually that she had raised, I think it was £15,000 for her school's PTA rather. And I said, why isn't this on your CV? And she said, I didn't think it was of any interest. So, raising that, being able to raise £15,000 for your school PTA and it wasn't on her CV is just, it's got to be there, because employers, so she's got such a skill there, but because she wasn't paid for it, I think in her brain, she just thought, I won't put it on my CV because it wasn't actual paid work experience.
And so taking it on from the course and the skills that they've learned and the confidence they've built, but you also do help people find employment as well, don't you?
Yeah, absolutely. So linked to the course, whilst they're doing the course, they will also have one-to-one support from one of my team, and that support will actually be job search, because I find, for everybody, I suppose it's, you don't know what you don't know, but what we do know is there's lots of flexible and part-time recruitment agencies out there, and there's lots of employers that are really forward thinking and they want to take on women returners. So we will connect our successful mums with these forward-thinking employers. So we work with lots of local employers around sort of South London, but also national employers as well. And so we can do those connections, because we do run a number of monthly online webinars, which they can join and actually meet the employers online. But we'll also let them know about all of the different recruitment organisations that are focusing on part-time and flexible work. Because unless you're in this industry, you might not know those places exist. And then we will make sure the mums have their CV up to date, they're feeling more confident about their interview. And we do interview practice as well, which is something that has really helped a lot of the mums. Then we make that link. So it's quite a simple model really. It's about the mums coming to us supporting them to be work ready, and then making those connections with employers or the recruitment agencies. And nobody's going to knock on your door and say, here's your ideal job. The mums do need to put the work in, but we're there to help them and hold them accountable to make sure they make it
But
happen.
in fairness, you say it's simple, but you do solve a really big problem from obviously the mum's perspective, but from an employer's perspective as well, because obviously disclosure that we've used your services and actually had a mum come and work with us via Successful Mums, and it was, I mean, I can't mention her obviously on the podcast, and that came about because we had a very particular need, a very actually highly skilled thing we wanted to do, which was around to do with Google advertising and SEO, but we were able to find somebody who had that skill set, which we wouldn't have otherwise been able to do, that would fit around not only their hours, that was part-time, but also that our need. So I do think there's obviously that element with employers. There's this workforce out there. You mentioned a barrister earlier. They're highly skilled, and those skills haven't gone anywhere, and that experience, but it enables companies. So if you're an employer listening to this, there's this workforce out there that you could tap into those skills to help those people if you've got the ability to allow them to work flexibly, which for a lot of small companies, that is obviously one of the things that is key to their success anyway.
Definitely. And I think off the back of the pandemic, even though it was a dreadful thing, if we can take something positive from it, more organisations, employers, businesses have realised that they can work flexibly. And I appreciate it's not for all businesses, and for some organisations they do need a more structured approach, but the majority of the employers that I speak to, they can give some flexibility, and in return they can have access to, this bank of relatively untapped skilled women that are there looking for work, and the majority of our sort of employer offer is absolutely free as well, so people can advertise on the job board. And we're not a recruitment agency, we're a training company, but we do have a job board where employers can advertise their roles.
So before we move on to some of the tips that we're going to talk about for women out there, I just wanted to touch upon something we spoke about before this chat. You do some education pieces, don't you, for employers around the menopause, don't you?
Yeah, that's right. So really, we've been looking at the barriers these women face in terms of going back into the workplace, and we've seen a real increase in women aged, I'd say 45 to 55. And one of the things that they may be going through is either the perimenopause or the menopause. And after talking to our employers, a lot of the employers we work with will say, we don't really know how to approach the subject, or we don't really know enough about the subject. And really, rather than just talk to the women in the organisation, it needs to be at something that we have on the team meeting, on the agenda. So we're actually able to provide menopause policies and resources to encourage these employers to have that discussion, and it's worked really, really well. And in fact, one organisation, there was a woman, she was in her early 50s, she was really having trouble sleeping, which meant she was coming into work late, and there was going to be a disciplinary taking place, which isn't nice for anybody. Coincidentally, I must say, they worked with us, they introduced the menopause policy, and one of those things was being able to talk to all of the people in the organisation if they needed any extra support. In this case, the employee felt comfortable at that point to say, well, actually, I'm not sleeping, and I think it is due to my age and the menopause. And they arranged for her to have a weighted blanket, which is one of the recommended sort of strategies to deal with sleeping, which is attached to the menopause, and also to take magnesium tablets, which again is suggested and potentially can help with the menopause symptoms. And they also agreed that she could come in 30 minutes later to work, and it was like she was a changed woman, because I think just being able to have that discussion with her manager and just being able to have those three things in place really helped her, and she's back on track. And there's no disciplinary, it's been solved, and so that's great for the individual and it's great for the business as well, just through sort of a conversation and bringing in a menopause policy.
That is incredible.
Yeah, it's just good for everybody.
For people listening to this will be really interested in Successful Mums. So it is a service that's predominantly based in London, isn't it?
Yes.
And that's partly because of the way you're funded, aren't you?
That's right. We're really lucky that we receive funding, and that is for the London boroughs only. However, we are able, because we do have a huge demand. It's a really great service. We do have employers and mums outside of London, so they are able to pay for the service. So I provide executive coaching, so I have career and business clients that work with me. I hold them accountable. And so I suppose what I do is I follow a sort of similar path. It's not a qualification, it's one-to-one bespoke career or business coaching for the individuals. And that takes place online, or it can take place in my office in Bromley, where I will help them achieve their goals, whether that's a career goal, finding a new job, finding a completely new career, or help them to develop their business.
So what we'll do is we're going to put links through to all of this, so people who are watching this on YouTube or listening to it on the podcast can find links to all of those different services and more information about Successful Mums. For those people who are listening and would like some tips that could help them, so we're talking about people who maybe return to work. I mean, any particular tips that you could give?
Okay, so those people that want to return to work, maybe after mat leave, for example, first of all, your CV needs to be up to date. Ideally 2 pages only. Definitely want a personal profile with what you can offer an employer. Make sure you have your transferable skills in there. What I see a lot of is people say career break, they might say for whether it's a year, whether it's 2 years, and then that's it, as if they weren't doing anything. So where you will have on your CV that you did have time off in terms of because you become a parent, make sure you get your transferable skills in there. And we have a lovely paragraph that we use that is quite professional. And rather than saying, I'm a mum, we usually say parent from this date to this date, even though it goes on forever, the parenting role, and then a paragraph of the type of work that you've been doing, along with any voluntary work, of course. And I mentioned earlier on the podcast the lady that raised 15,000 for her school, so make sure you have that straight away. So the CV needs to be up to date, and we can help with the CVs, of course, and make sure you get somebody else to look at it. The amount of CVs I look at where there's a digit missing from the mobile phone, the email address is incorrect, and there's nothing on there about you as an individual. So make sure you have something that says about me or interests, because the majority of employers we work with, they want to know what you're about. If you do the Race for Life, if you do the Couch to 5K, if you love cooking Indian food, if you love making cakes, or whatever you like to do as your hobbies, that tells a story about you. So make sure you have some information on there about you as an individual as well. And in terms of the career break and finding something else, think about what do you really enjoy doing. So many of the women that we work with will say, oh, well, I worked in travel before, so that's what I'm going to do again. And we question them, well, do you really want to do that? Now is a new chapter, now is a chance to possibly find another role. And we do work with employers that don't necessarily have to have people that have got previous experience. They're prepared to retrain them. There's so many retraining returner programs. So we think about what you would like to do rather than sort of naturally what you feel that you did before. And linked to that, I suppose, we're supporting more and more mums that want to start a business. So if you have got a hobby you really enjoy, or let's say if you did work in HR before and now you want to do consultancy in HR, think about working for yourself. It could be an option, and then we can take you through a framework of what that would look like. But in terms of people that want to start a business, it's really important to know who your customer is. Often I hear people say, oh, anybody, but of course it's not. I think even Tesco's would probably say their customer isn't everybody. So the slicker you can be about who your customer is, the easier it is to get in front of them and sell your product or your service.
So, I mean, I've mentioned already, we're going to put links in the notes of this show. Can you just mention your social media profiles as well, that people can find you online?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're Successful Mums on Twitter, on Insta, on Facebook, and we are on LinkedIn as well. So if people type in to those social media platforms, Successful Mums, they will find us. There's so many case studies on there. And the mums are so inspirational. And I think, it's great to see other mums that are like you, because then I think it's really aspirational and you can see it's possible as well. And I think something to add to the case studies is the social mobility. I think it's great to see so many of these women that might think, oh, I can only do this much, when in fact, with a little bit of help, they can step outside their comfort zone and maybe retrain or do something else, which then supports not only social mobility, but supports their aspirations and their children's aspirations as well.
Thank you so much for coming to do the show. It's been so insightful and enjoyable. It's always fun to talk to you as well. And for employers out there, then do also go and check out Successful Mums, because obviously there'll be people there who have opportunities for some of the people that you are actually helping. So thank you for coming on the show.
No,
It's been great to have the insights. We'll share all the links, etc., in the notes. And I've got a feeling that we'll probably be asking you to come back again at some point in the future,
Brilliant.
no
Yeah,
doubt,
that'd be
so
great.
we can talk more about the topic.